FreedomJ has had many discussions on how using body fat measurement methods are not useful. That being established, how would you estimate how much weight a competitor will need to lose to get on stage if they've never been on stage? Let's say you know their starting weight, and could you visually assess their body at the beginning of prep? Would you guesstimate body fat percentage and factor in LBM, lean body mass, and water losses to estimate stage weight? So I'll just kind of kick this off with just two very, very broad answers to this question. First of all, whatever we think a person's stage weight is going to be, we always deduct another 5 pounds. Because it's always ends up being less than we thought. Well, I shouldn't say always. I'd say the majority of the time. There's very rare occasions where we actually end up usually being in the condition that we want and being heavier than we thought. Yeah, and I'll save my other responses for you guys when we chime in. But how do you guys assess what a person's stage weight should be when they've never been on stage before? That's kind of a key thing.
I'm not the numbers guy, so I'm not gonna ask a person to find out their body fat percentages or anything like that. It's more experience. Like if you ask me this question in the last 20 years, I'm going to come really close to getting within 5 to 10 pounds, probably more like 5 pounds, like you said, Brad, of plus or minus of where they need to be as far as a stage. And that's just through experience of seeing so many bodybuilding shows over the years and working with so many athletes. It's more just like intuition, kind of, if you will, just like seeing the physique, seeing kind of like in my mind, what kind of goes through it is, okay, how tall are they? What's their body weight? Okay, then I visually assess their physique, how much muscle looks like there's there, and then how much like body fat is there. Like if I can, let's say someone's like roughly 5'8", 5'9", let's say they're weighing 200 pounds, and you can barely make out some musculature. Like you can tell there's muscle. It's just hard to kind of identify, like, the delts from the arms and things like that. I'm like, that's probably a good 30, 35, 40 pounds they're going to have to take off. If someone's just like okay, there you can see some muscle, you can see some abs, you can see definition of arms, shoulders, more or less. I'm like, okay, that's probably like 15 to 20. So I kind of just look at it visually and kind of assess in my mind height, what their body comp looks like visually, and then I kind of just know through experience. If you would have asked me this question my first 5 to 10 years of bodybuilding, I would have probably told you a number and I would have been way off. So I think just as you gain more experience, and it's just one of those things where the more you look at bodybuilding, the more you expose yourself to it, you're going to get more of an eye for it. It's just like anything else in life that you have an interest in. As you partake in it more and more, you're just going to naturally get experience at it. So that's kind of how I assess it. It's not, hey, give me some measurements or anything like that. It's just more of an experience thing.
So, I mean, it's a subjective sport, right? And sports analogies, use like baseball, like stats and numbers matter a lot. They'll tell you a lot about the gameplay, what kind of player that is. That's why I love basketball, because stats are so overblown. It's like they're so overrated. It's like bodybuilding. Who cares if you have, I don't know, like 18-inch biceps? Like my quads in contest shape are like 23 inches, but like, who cares, It's what Jeff said, basically. It's like, just show me someone, give me like neutral lighting. Don't get under like that yellow lighting that your gym has where it's like over you, that flying saucer lighting. And yeah, like usually I can like nail it right on the button. And if anything, when I give athletes I'll give them ranges. I can give everyone like their peeled weight. Like this is like your appropriate for your division, like what it should be at like those top tier levels. But usually I'll give them a range because I don't want someone to try to kill themselves for something, like try to achieve something they're just not ready for. So if I think said bodybuilder 167 is your magic number, I'll tell you, you know what, 167 to like 174, somewhere around there. And that 174 is kind of like, hey, that's like entry level conditioning. It's like it's you can look good, no one's going to say anything about you being out of shape, but it's a relatively safe place to aim for. So whenever I do give people their projections, like I usually like kind of, because some people their first go, it's like, oh shoot, you got peeled, but that's just not always the case. So I usually give them a little bit of a range so that, like if they only get to the 174, they're like, "Ooh, okay, I did pretty good," as opposed to, maybe embarking in something that they don't know how to do, or if they do, they're just not ready for it just yet.
I think a caveat is that, yeah, the range, that's what I do. Hey, give or take X amount of weight. But I think just think that most people, when they're new to this or fairly new, they haven't really prepped, or they maybe prepped one or twice but never got like ultra peeled. You got to get leaner than you thought you can ever get lean. You're like, oh shit, I didn't know I'm gonna weigh less than I was in high school. Like you're gonna see some numbers that you're just like, no way, there's no way I'm gonna look small. Like the thing is when you get in peeled condition, you're gonna look bigger on stage because everything's showing up more. But yeah, in clothes as a natural bodybuilder, like I look like someone who's more, I mean, yeah, you can tell I'm a bodybuilder, but I look more athletic than anything. I don't look super jacked. At times I have people say, are you okay? Because you sure you're okay? Are you still training? So you're going to have to go further than you think. So if you, in your mind, you're kind of like, oh, I need to lose 20. It's probably like Brad said, you probably need to lose 25, 30. And you think about timeline. Like if you think you need 6 months to get in shape, give yourself 8 or 9. Because your first prediction is probably going to be off by a decent amount. So if you have enough time to plan for it, you could accommodate what you need to do to kind of get you there.
Yeah, you guys have hit the gut feeling, I think, right on the head. Because I'll be honest, when I have a first-time competitor and I need to guesstimate their stage weight, I hate it. I'm so thankful when it's like, okay, what was your previous stage weight? And it says 159. I'm like, yes. It's going to be between 158 and 162, and it usually always ends up being that way. But yeah, when it comes to first timers, I mean, here's the numbers things that I go through. Myself, I've never had a bodybuilder peeled, whether they are 6'3" or 5'7", be over 200 pounds. I've never had that. Either you ever had that? I know Berto has because he's coached in SEMA.
I might have.
Craig Toes,
it's rare. It's more rare in natural bodybuilding to have
rare.
someone over 200 peeled to the bone. Yeah.
Dave LeClaire, I've had a few guys that are just like...
Yeah. They're out there.
So
but I think it's more rare
wrong.
than it is a general rule. Yeah.
So there's the
fact that
first
you
thing
exist
I
is insulting
always
to
think
me,
of.
yeah.
But yeah, that's always the first thing I think of. So then after that, I kind of go, okay, let's look at their height. Because if they're 6 foot, 6'1", 6'2", they could be peeled upper 180s, upper 190s. Could be. Probably more like low 180s, kind of 170s. If they're 6 foot to like 5'10", probably going to be 170s, high 160s. And then, like Berto's joke in the recovery diet, it's like, if you're 5'9", you're peeled at 159 to 160, because that's what all 5'9" natural bodybuilder stage weight seems to be.
Not mine.
Well, yeah, we're not all the Godfather, that's for sure. But there was a time.
There was a time.
So yeah, there was a time I was 160 when I used to diet too aggressively and kill all my muscle. Yeah. But so in a nutshell, like you look at the height, right? Like height is that's the same thing I do. Even for females, I'll look at the height and then I'll look at kind of their shape and see what kind of musculature they have and kind of determine from there. And more or less, I'm kind of within range, 10 pounds or so, based on their height and kind of how they're looking as far as their body comp.
Yeah. And usually from there, I just kind of look at, like Jeff said, how much muscle do they have? How much of it is showing? Because muscle always kind of throws things off a little bit. It's kind of like I've seen people that are like, yeah, they got some abs, but there's obviously some body fat there. You know what I mean? And it's like they're probably only going to need to lose about 25 or 30 pounds. So I'm going to say 35. And then sure enough, they had to lose 40 to get peeled. Muscle always throws things off just a little bit in my mind. But yeah, usually, if there's a significant amount of body fat, I'm always saying 30 pounds minimum, probably closer to 40. If they're like, let's just say respectably lean, like just kind of like gym lean, I'm usually talking 25, maybe 30. And then, yeah, if they're like Instagram lean, minimum 15, 20. That's kind of like my last little numbers set as far as, like Jeff said, experience and what your gut tells you.
I mean, as you're dieting down too, like things change because sometimes, you know, I'll kind of predict, okay, we're going to be this weight probably, give or take. Then as the process unfolds, I'm like, oh, you know what? Okay, it's probably going to be more like this, even lighter. And I've even been surprised too, where I'm like, whoa, it's like this person's actually going to be heavier than I thought. So I'm not perfect. It's just more estimating, but again, it's experienced estimating.
And I'd just like to offer, because I did that on a different podcast, like if anyone wants to send me like their pictures, I'll tell you more or less where you need to be. It's practice for me too. And it's always fun to see them come back later and they're like, you're pretty dead on.
Close,
so,
yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, it doesn't take up a whole lot of time. So yeah, you can hit me up on the IGs if you want to, and I'll let you know more or less where you need to be. We both win this way. It's practice for me, and hey, you get some info. So.